which gives you that additional standing.
We'll take your follow-up question from Irvin, if that's okay.
It wasn't a follow-up, there was a question. There was a question of protection.
Yes.
What do you do if you, or is it the same thing that in terms of protection of, for instance, the sugar factory? Everyone in this room felt that there was an issue.
Yes, you could petition. You could petition, you could petition. That's one of the means of expressing oneself.
Okay.
And you can petition whether it's direct to the government, or you can petition the National Trust to take it upon your behalf. But then you need to understand that it has to be a working arrangement that you're suggesting, recognizing the need for funding and the need for everything else. But perhaps some initial steps could be taken locally that would be, coming forward with some of these ideas.
And I think we have time for one more question from Mrs. Okahati, unless there are pressing questions after that.
Thanks for a lovely presentation this evening. I'd like to make two observations. One, the Ministry of Education. A lot of these things are floundering because our upcoming generations are not made aware of the importance, the impact, the right to heritage. I've recently read about a book that's just come out. Is heritage a human right? So these things are things that need to be said in schools. We need to talk to kids and get them interested when they're very small. I remember the trust used to have, or when they were at the society, they used to have a coloring book. Things like that. These days you have to give them apps. But hey, there are people out there who can provide that kind of thing. We went out of our way to put together a website. We also suggested put there documents that could be used for discussion and teaching aids which could start topics in classes. So you don't just regurgitate what we put there. The idea is to take it forward, make it more meaningful to the kids. How much it's being used, I don't know. We also put the registry of slaves on our website, which is down at the moment. I don't know what's happening there. And a little reminder, if we're actually listed on Memory of the World, UNESCO's Memory of the World list, the international one. Another item I'd like to bring up is when the government changed, one of the new ministers approached me one day and said that somebody, I think it was Dr. Irvin, before he died, suggested that I should be the focal point for archaeology here in St. Kitts. I was shocked and surprised and honored at the same time. I'm not an archaeologist, but I recognize the importance of such a person because we have heritage sites that are being dismantled. Even the ones that are being cared for, there are people going in the night to thieve things from them. There are materials that are being placed in the care of private entities, and it's important to start monitoring what's happening to these things and maybe doing the occasional raid with the help of the police and Coast Guard and whatever. But this is something that we really, really need to take forward, the monitoring and watching over our assets. Because if we're going to go forward as an island of heritage, then we can't afford to lose any more of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we made provisions under the National Trust Act for education to be one of the representatives, because there are 4 representatives. You've got culture, you've got education, you've got tourism, and what else again now? Sustainable development, yes. And you've also got the Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Industry and Commerce and Wilson Hill. So there were provisions, but you need to ensure that they're active, because it was recognized in terms of the need for their involvement in curriculum development, the need for doing the things that you're speaking about, the small things that matter in terms of the age of the people and so on. So that's something that's definitely still needs to be emphasized.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you very much, everyone, for your engaging discussion this evening, just as we expected it would be. It has been, and I'm sure there are still a lot more questions that could be asked, a lot more comments. We have radio personalities, government ministers, a lot of individuals who are here with us tonight who I know can ensure that the conversation continues, but I do like that our penultimate question from Mr. Welsh was really asking, how do we get involved, what do we do, how can we become active and do something to make the change that needs to happen. And it is now my distinct pleasure to call Mrs. O'Flaherty to bring the closing remarks. And it is interesting that coming out of a call for action in one of these, in a similar lecture for training programs and courses in Kittitian history, Mrs. O'Flaherty wrote, and we now deliver. In fact, classes started this week, and there's still room if anybody's interested in exploring Kittitian history. A course that was developed, went through the U.W.I approval mechanisms, launched as part of History and Heritage Month of Activities in 2013, and is running again, and there's now interest in Nevis, and hopefully we will have an exploring Nevisian history course written as the experts indicate. It would be good to have an exploring Kittitian history, exploring Nevisian history, perhaps eventually we combine them into exploring Kittitian and Nevisian history. So Mrs. O'Flaherty, I welcome you now to offer the closing remarks.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Traditionally, I'd like to adopt the protocol and keep it short. Thank you, Sir Tapley, for highlighting the progress we've made with regards to the creation of the Nevis Historical Conservation Society and the St. Christopher Heritage Society, now the Trust. They have been important elements, and I'm sure that without them we would have been far poorer in our both natural and historical heritage sites and assets in general. You pointed out the importance of advocacy. Advocacy is important for everything. We tend to think of it as something for the private sector, the Trust, the Brimstone Hill Society. The archives needs advocacy too, and I'm so grateful that you have taken on that job of talking for us as well. We also need volunteers. In other countries, when people reach a certain age, they retire, and then they start popping up at documentation centers and archives and writing little histories of their neighborhoods, of their families, biographies, little things like that, which may not be spectacular works of historical insight, but they can form the basis of that, because without that, the university historians, the academics, cannot produce the works they do. This is important. We need people to start taking an interest and making their information available to people, because this Trust and the archives cannot do it alone. The NCEPA Act, you've highlighted a lot of aspects of it. I think that's something that we really need to look after, especially when it comes to the access to public beaches. We know that progress and human interest don't always go hand in hand, especially when it comes to heritage. So therefore, it's important to look at how this impacts the local population and what interests are being maybe infringed in certain areas. We've spoken about the need to promote our island, to look after our heritage. One of the things that the Archives has done is to start writing histories. We've done one for the Trust on schooners, and we were able to take it way back into the French period. We're at the moment collecting notes on the salt ponds. We know of the names of Maroons who are down there. I think those are important things that, now that we know them, we need to let our youths run with them, start to do things with them, encourage them to create their own heroes, to value the places where these people lived. We have our arts. I'd like to point out that paintings, sculpture, architecture, these are part of our arts as well, and we need to value them as well. I'm very happy to hear of the publication about Government House. I hope we will have others in the future about other sites. So I'd like to thank you very much for provoking all these thoughts and ideas amongst us present here, and hopefully if this talk gets to ZIZ, then maybe in the general public as well. I'd like to thank the University Open Campus for hosting tonight, for hosting so many interesting talks and moments when we are asked to think rather than sit back and relax. I'd like to extend my congratulations as well to Mr. Kenneth Samuel for the award he was given, and for being such a passionate advocate for such a very delicate, very fragile environment. And I'd like to extend my thanks and gratitude and continued support to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park Society for their work in the History and Heritage Month. It is no longer a week, it's a month, and maybe even 2 months eventually. And for making it a local thing rather than what we used to get in the past, where we simply looked at people elsewhere, right? It's important that we start looking for our own heroes, and that we start writing our own stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. O'Flaherty, for a comprehensive and fitting close to this evening's proceedings. Ordinarily, I would ask that we stand for the departure of the Governor-General, but His Excellency has indicated that he prefers a less formal departure that enables him to converse and mingle with us a bit before he leaves. So I thank you all very much for coming out this evening. I thank you especially, Governor-General, for your continuing support of history, heritage, the U.W.I, and all those things that you continue to hold dear. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Let's go to the part. Let's go to the Parliament. C'est mon problème.
Okay.